Welcome. It's good to be with you tonight on a Thursday night here on Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The hottest social media product, I guess, is that what you call it? Social media product in the UGA nation. Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Chris Hall here in with you for a little dog talk. And I think we got the wrong caption up there. Don't we have the wrong caption? You want to fix that? It's UGA versus what? Was that me? Did I do that? I hit the wrong button, didn't I? Okay, UGA versus Kentucky, and it's not the wrap up. It's Dawg Talk. Okay, you want to do that? And sorry, guys, our my producer is not quite as sharp as he used to be, and yeah, we're going live on all of these platforms, right? Okay, so we're good. Now, hey guys, welcome. I don't know what all that was. Technical difficulties. But it's good to be with you. Yeah, we're talking about UGA in Kentucky. Now, UGA and Mississippi State is long past. Of course, Georgia winning that game over Mississippi State last Saturday night in Starkville to go 10 and 0 on the season. Quite a game, an enjoyable game, especially, of course, for the University of Georgia as the Bulldogs took it home. Kind of wavered a little bit there in the third quarter or in the second quarter, at the end of the second quarter, but then took control of the game definitively in the third quarter and brought it home for a big win for the University of Georgia. So we're going to step in here, talk a little bit about UGA and Kentucky. Now, if you want to jump in here and ask a question, if you have a comment, anything you want to talk about concerning the University of Georgia, be sure to do that. By the way, you can check out our Dogs on Demand podcast. We have a great podcast. You can go to our any of our social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and you can find our podcast. We have regular podcast at least once a week, one time a week, where we talk to folks about the University of Georgia. Had a great conversation earlier this week with David Pollock. Of course, David with ESPN, three-time All-American at the University of Georgia, a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. And he was very gracious to come on the program, and we had a great conversation with him talking about Georgia and just talking about the college football playoffs and his perspective on the Bulldogs. So be sure to check out that podcast. We posted it earlier in the week with myself and David Pollock. And the week last week, we talked to who was it? Yeah, Tim Worley. And we talked to him about University of Georgia as well back in the day. Great football player for the University of Georgia. So check out our podcast. You can find them again at any of our social media sites, and it'll get you connected to wherever we are. And they're a lot of fun, and you get a lot of good information. So we hope you're having a good night tonight here in South Georgia. That's where we're located in beautiful South Georgia. The frost is going to be on the pumpkin in the morning. For us, for some people, 28 degrees is nothing. That's nothing. They go outside in their shirt sleeves and shorts in 28 degrees. But for us in South Georgia, 28 degrees is news. we have to wrap the pipes and cover everything up and get the plants in and all that kind of stuff because we're not used to that. Now, if you've never lived in the South, especially in South Georgia, and I'm sure this is true of other areas of the South as well, we have winter. We do have winter. Winter comes, okay? We have winter, but we only have winter like 2 days at the time. We'll have really cold weather for like a day or two, and then it will warm back up. That's just the way it is. We rarely have an extended period of really cold weather in the South. So we're going to have winter for the next couple of days, and then it'll be fall again. And who knows? Between now and Christmas time, it may get to be summer again in South Georgia. We have had Christmas days with temperatures in the 80s. not exactly the white Christmas, unless you go out into the cotton fields that have not been harvested yet. Not exactly the white Christmas that a lot of people have. But beautiful in South Georgia today, and we pray that and hope that you had a good day today, wherever you might be. So let's talk a little bit about our Georgia Bulldogs, the number one team in the country. Thank you very much. In the college football playoffs polls, the latest college football playoff rankings, as well as the AP poll and USA Today polls and that kind of thing. So Georgia now is 10-0 on the season, 7-0 in the SEC, and number one in the college football playoffs. And Georgia will be taking on Kentucky on Saturday. Now Kentucky is 6-4 on the season, 3-4 in the SEC. The game will be this Saturday, 3:30 at Kroger Field in Lexington, Kentucky, and of course it'll be on CBS. So you'll have the CBS crew there bringing us the ball game. If you don't want to turn up the Georgia Bulldog guys on radio, which I would suggest that you do. Now, in the season or in the series between these two colleges, the all-time series, Georgia leads this series with Kentucky. Georgia has won 61 times. Kentucky has won 12. And there have been two ties in the series between Georgia and Kentucky. So let's talk a little bit about this game as we approach it. Georgia, of course, has already clinched a spot in the SEC championship game. Georgia is the Eastern Division champion, the champions of the Eastern Division of the SEC. And Georgia will be looking to finish 8-0 in league play for the second consecutive season, to be undefeated in the SEC for the second consecutive season. Kentucky, on the other hand, has dropped 4 of its last 6 games, and they lost last week, surprisingly and shockingly, to Vanderbilt. Kentucky losing at home to Vanderbilt 24-21. And that win for the Commodores enabled Vanderbilt to halt a 26-game SEC winless streak. Vanderbilt had lost 26 straight games to SEC opponents before taking out Kentucky last week in Lexington. And that loss has been having people scratching their head all week long since it's happened. What in the world happened? Of course, Georgia took out Kentucky pretty, or rather Vanderbilt pretty handily early in the season. So it's kind of interesting. You got Georgia taking on Kentucky this coming Saturday. Now, some of the matchups, a key matchup in the game is going to be probably quarterback Stetson Bennett against Kentucky's secondary. Stetson Bennett now ranks second in the SEC in passing, averaging 289.5 yards per game. He's thrown for 14 touchdowns, and he threw for 3 touchdowns last week in Georgia's 45-19 victory at Mississippi State. Bennett is going to face a Wildcat defense that is ranked 3rd in the SEC, giving up 317 yards a game. But Kentucky last week, again, inexplicably, who expected it, gave up 448 yards to Vanderbilt, and they allowed Vanderbilt to drive the field, in a game-winning touchdown in the final minute. So, you got Georgia, Stetson Bennett against that Kentucky secondary. There's been a lot of talk about Georgia now that Kentucky's very physical. And, there have been comments made this week that this is always one of the most physical games that Georgia will play. Kentucky plays hard, and they do have some quality players. So Georgia players are anticipating a very physical game. But there's been some comments coming out of Athens among the players that, they're saying, hey, we're going to match that physicality against Kentucky. And so look for Georgia to really come out and really try to dominate this game from the get-go. Now, you're on the road in the SEC, and that is never easy. That is never easy. Georgia did not have an easy time with Mississippi State last week, even though they did finally wind up winning 45 to 19. Georgia had to deal with some punches from Mississippi State. So you go to Kentucky, you go to Kroger Field, 3:30 on CBS, and Kentucky, they're coming off that loss to Vanderbilt, and they're going to be ready to go. And so it's never easy in the SEC. It's especially never easy for the fans because we want Georgia to come out, score 21 points in the first quarter, dominate the game, and then kind of coast on the way through so we can relax. But I don't know. Sometimes you can't relax as a Georgia Bulldog fan, but it's going to be a challenge as Georgia goes down to Kentucky. Lad McConkey had a very good game, a great game against Mississippi State. McConkey now has 43 receptions. That is tied for ninth in the SEC, second on the team with 578 yards. McConkey is he's second on the team with 578 yards receiving yards. He has 4 touchdowns, 2 last week against Mississippi State. Now, on the other side, Kentucky comes in. Chris Rodriguez Jr., he's the man. He's running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. He was injured and earlier in the season and had a 4-game suspension to start the season. I forget exactly what the problem was. But since he came back on the squad and has been able to play, he's picked up 733 yards on 134 carries, and he has 6 touchdowns. So Chris Rodriguez Jr., he's a physical running back, and he's going to get the ball a lot against Georgia this coming Saturday. Georgia has won the last 12 games in this series. And so there you go. Kentucky is bowl eligible. They have 6 wins. So they will, have for their 6th consecutive season, Kentucky will be going to a bowl. Now, Kentucky defensive coordinator Brad White. I don't know if you saw these comments today. How you doing, Miss Amber? Good to have you with us tonight. Kentucky defensive coordinator Brad White had some high praise for Stetson Bennett. In fact, here's what he said. He said that Stetson Bennett is going to be the very best quarterback that Kentucky will play against this season. He said, and I quote, and this is the defensive coordinator, Brad White of Kentucky. He said, facing Stetson Bennett in college is kind of like facing Tom Brady in the NFL, in that he has seen so much. He's got so much experience. We've got to find a way to give him something he has not seen. And White went on to say that he is the best quarterback, probably, that we will face all year. And that includes Hendon Hooker. Now, Tennessee beat Kentucky 44-6 in Knoxville earlier in the season. Hendon Hooker had 245 yards in that game, passing 3 touchdowns, ran for a touchdown as well. So high praise from Kentucky defensive coordinator Brad White about Stetson Bennett. He compared him to Tom Brady. Now, Stetson, of course, 25 years of age. And White says, look, he's seen everything. He's an experienced quarterback. He's a very confident quarterback. So high praise coming for Stetson Bennett. And I saw today Stetson Bennett now on the Heisman projections. They have these projections for who's going to win the Heisman, and they got this list and who's on the list. Stetson Bennett now number 4. I think it's 6. Yeah, number 6 on the list. So supposedly 6 others are, better. My dog Roman says he wants to meet the other. Okay. Okay. Now, if Georgia is a heavy, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Georgia now is a 22.5-point favorite over Kentucky. And so that's pretty hefty for being on the road. And, we talk about these spreads and these projections in Georgia against their different opponents. And usually the spread is pretty well right on, except for the Missouri game. That was way off. But the spread last week against Mississippi State, Georgia hit it and exceeded it. And so, the guys who do all this kind of stuff. Oh, Roman wants to meet Uga. Is that right? Okay. Okay. Well, I can't make that happen. I'm sorry. I wish I could get Roman to do that. Um, so Georgia is a 22.5 point favorite. Hey, and here's something that may be a complication for Saturday's game. It is supposed to be very cold in Lexington, Kentucky this coming Saturday. Here's the Weather Channel predicts a blistering low of 18 degrees on Saturday with a high of just over 37 degrees and winds reaching up to 20 miles per hour for the game. Is that right? For the game. It's going to be very cold, 37 degrees and 20-mile-an-hour winds. I don't know if I have enough long handles to handle that, but but this will be the coldest game that both teams have played in to this point of the season. Chances of rain are very low. Rain most likely will not affect the game. Well, if you had rain in that kind of situation, you'd have ice. Probably, it's too cold to snow. It'd probably be ice. Um, that's going to be a complication. It is going to be bitterly, bitterly cold in Lexington for this game on Saturday. Now, that's going to present a challenge for for throwing the game, for throwing the ball, receiving the ball, and especially for kicking, because high winds are going to make kicking very difficult. The cold weather is going to make the ball extremely hard. Jack Podlesny and Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo is the kicker for Kentucky. You probably will not see very many field goal attempts, longer than maybe 30 yards or something like that on Saturday. So it's going to be cold. But Georgia now a 22.5 point favorite. Georgia, the number one team in the college football playoffs. And let's take a look at the college football playoffs that came out. The most recent ones came out this past Tuesday. Georgia, number one, 10-0. Ohio State, 10-0, number two. Michigan, 10-0, number three. And number four, the the TCU Horned Frogs, Texas Christian University. By the way, I went to one of their games many, 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 many years ago, lived near their campus while I was going to college in Texas, TCU. So that's your top four. What that means is this: if the season ended today, if it was all said and done today, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU would be in the college football playoffs. Number five is Tennessee. Tennessee's lurking on the outside, looking in. And what is Tennessee banking on? Well, Ohio State and Michigan play in a couple of weeks. So one of those teams, obviously, going to lose in that game. That will knock them out of the top four. TCU's got a tough game this week against Baylor. So you never know about that. So, Tennessee's feeling pretty good about their opportunity to climb back in the top four. They're currently number five. Number six team in the college football rankings is LSU at 8-2, a two-loss team. LSU is number six. And then you have USC at number seven at 9-1. Alabama number eight at 8-2. Clemson number nine at 9-1. And Utah, the Utes. I know, I can't resist. My cousin Vinny, the Utes. Sorry. The Utah Utes at 8-2. They're number 10. Then you got Penn State, Ohio, Oregon, North Carolina. By the way, North Carolina's 9-1. They play what? Georgia Tech this week, right? And if they beat Georgia Tech, they'll be 10-1, a 10-win season for North Carolina. Ole Miss is number 14, Kansas State 15, UCLA 16, Washington, Notre Dame, Florida State, UCF, University of Central Florida. Then you have Tulane, Oklahoma State, Oregon State, North Carolina State, and Cincinnati. Hello, Randy, my man, Randy Payne. Good to have you with us from beautiful Tifton, Georgia. Been to Tifton, Georgia many a time. Good football in Tift County over there. I don't know how the Tift County Blue Devils are doing this season. I hadn't kept up with it much, but I have checked that out. But that's good football, high school football in Tifton. So there you go, Georgia #1. Probably, take care of business in Kentucky. And Lewis checking in. Hey, Lewis, how you doing? Go Dogs. Um, Georgia, yeah, if Georgia takes care of Kentucky, then the final game is Georgia and Georgia Tech. So Georgia should win out. That will put them in the SEC championship game as the #1 team in the country against LSU. Georgia should win that game, but man, all these games you say they should win, should win, should win, should win. Sometimes they don't win. But that'll be a good game, Georgia and LSU. Georgia, yeah, they got a good shot to run the table here and go into the playoffs as the #1 team. And then what do you got? They'll be playing the #4 team. Tift County Blue Devils not having a good season, really. 1-10. Okay, well that's not like the Blue Devils. Go Dogs. There you go. Well, that's not like the Tift County Blue Dogs. Blue Devils. I'm sorry, Blue Dogs, Blue Dog, Blue Devils. So maybe they get straightened out. All right, let's look at the SEC quickly from last week. Tennessee beat Missouri 66-24. Josh Heupel. I lost a lot of respect for him in that game. I mean, that at the end of the game, I know you play the game, you put other guys in, and your substitutes want to play and they want to show out, and the second line guys, third line guys. But scoring that last touchdown, calling timeouts to just rub it in Missouri, I didn't like that. I just you got the team beat. Kirby Smart rarely. I don't I don't know if Kirby Smart has ever done anything like that. Usually when Kirby Smart feels like his team has the game under control, he just shuts it down. He runs, tries to run the clock out. He doesn't try to run the score up. Now it happens. Georgia's put what, 55 on Vanderbilt. And, it happens because you put your second line guys in there and you can't tell them, look, we're way ahead. Don't play so hard. They're going to play hard. But that was purposeful from Tennessee, unnecessary from Tennessee against Missouri, is my thinking. And, the thought is outside of the circle of the Tennessee fans, they would take umbrage with what I've just said. But outside the circle of, Tennessee fans, the idea is that maybe Tennessee was trying to get the attention of the playoff committee, with a big score and that kind of thing. I don't know. Then you had LSU beating Arkansas 13-10 last week. And of course, that clinched the SEC Western Division title for LSU. So you have Georgia and LSU in the SEC championship game for the 5th time. And Georgia's lost the last 2 to LSU. So, but Georgia should be a pretty good favorite in that game. You had Vanderbilt beating Kentucky 24-21. Inexplicably. Mark Stoops, he's made no excuses for it. He said, I was stunk as a coach and my team stunk as a team. And Vanderbilt played very good, very well. So then you had Alabama beating Ole Miss last week 30-24. Which essentially ended, that ended Ole Miss's hopes of winning the West and, any playoff hopes they may have thought about. So Alabama beat Ole Miss in Oxford. Florida beat South Carolina 38-6 last week. Georgia beat Mississippi State, and those Cowbells. Shouldn't, by the way, Dogs are going all the way. We're going for 2 in a row. I believe it. I believe it. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Randy. We appreciate it. What? Oh, he was talking about the Bulldogs, not me. Sorry. Um, so there you go. That was Georgia whipping or beating Mississippi State last week, and Auburn beat Texas A&M. Cornell Williams, Cadillac. Will he be the next head coach at Auburn? I mean, he loves Auburn and he is enthusiastic to the high heavens. And Auburn beat the dumpster fire, Texas A&M dumpster fire last week. And it was at home, but is Cadillac going to be the next coach? I saw, and you can always see speculations, but I saw Dabo Swinney's name dropped as possibly going to Auburn. Now, wouldn't that be a hello and a hallelujah for Auburn? And probably, my gut says that will never happen. Dabo seems very happy at Clemson, but you never know. Never know. What Randy say? Not talking about you, go Dogs. Thank you, Randy. Well, I was just wanting clarification. I know. Go Dogs. Good job. All right. Now, what's coming up this week? Austin Peay takes on Alabama. Alabama's, God, Austin, is it P or Pay? Whatever. Austin Peay taking on Alabama this Saturday, 12 noon on the SEC Plus and ESPN Plus. That means if you're an Alabama fan, you can't see this on TV. You got to stream it. Well, I guess you can see it technically on a TV if you can stream on the TV. So Austin Peay at Alabama. And okay, name your score, pick your score. East Tennessee State University taking on Mississippi State. That's at 12 noon. That'll be a SEC Network plus ESPN plus game as well. Massachusetts taking on Texas A&M. UMass taking on Texas A&M at College Station at 12 noon. All of those are 12 noon games, and all of those are on that streaming thing. SEC Network, ESPN Plus, SEC Network Plus, and ESPN Plus. Then the 12 noon game that's going to be actually on television on the SEC Network is Florida taking on Vanderbilt in Nashville. Now, that might turn out to be an interesting game. Vanderbilt riding sky high after beating Kentucky. Florida coming into Nashville to take on Vanderbilt, 12 o'clock noon. Hey, might be something. 3:30 game, Georgia at Kentucky. That'll be on CBS. My projected score. I say that Georgia's going to win this game 38-10. 38-10 over Kentucky. What do you think? 38-10. I've been pretty close on these, these prognostications, projections, or whatever. So I say 38-10, Georgia beating Kentucky. 4 o'clock, you have Western Kentucky taking on Auburn. That'll be on the SEC Network. 7 o'clock on ESPN this coming Saturday, Tennessee traveling to South Carolina. Could it be? South Carolina has had its ups and downs. Florida beat them pretty easily, but you never know. Tennessee traveling into Columbia. You never know. Also 7:30 on Saturday, Ole Miss at Arkansas. Arkansas is just up and down, losing these games very close and that kind of thing. 7:30 also New Mexico State at Missouri. And then at 9 o'clock this coming Saturday, UAB at LSU on ESPN2 at 9 o'clock. Okay. Well, that's Eastern time. It's, that'd be 8 o'clock their time, right? In Baton Rouge. Hey, UAB is not a bad football team. Georgia played them and not a bad. And on the national scene, some significant, the schedule, the college football schedule for this coming weekend kind of stinks, to be honest with you. Randy says 42-13. Okay. All right. I say 38-10. He says 42-13. Okay. And let's see. Lewis says Georgia 35, Kentucky 14. Okay. That sounds good. That sounds all right. Some significant games out of the conference. Illinois at Michigan. Now, Illinois, that's a 12 o'clock game on ESPN three. What is no? That's ABC. Okay, I got you. Illinois. That'll be a 12 o'clock game. Illinois at Michigan. Does Illinois? Nah. Going into the big house. Nah. Yeah, that would okay. Now, a TCU, number four, ranked number four in the college football playoff rankings, will be going to Baylor, going to Waco, Texas to take on Baylor. That'll be a 12 o'clock game on Fox. You know, Baylor's had its up and downs, got a decent team, going to be in Waco. Place will be crazy. Can TCU survive there? Can TCU survive in the Big 12 championship game? TCU has a couple of tough games coming up, and then they'll play in the conference championship game. Can they survive to make it into the college football playoffs? Then you have Miami at Clemson. And now Miami took care of Georgia Tech last week pretty handily. So you got Miami going to Clemson this coming Saturday, 2:30, or that'll be 3:30 rather, on ESPN. So, all right, it's a lot of fun to follow college football. Again, check out our podcast with, check out our podcast with David Pollock, University of Georgia, great ESPN guy. Great podcast we had with him earlier in the week. He's just a good guy, And check it out. You can go to our social media pages, Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find all of the podcast on our YouTube channel. By the way, when you go to our YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe. You might win something. You may not, but be sure to subscribe when you go to our YouTube channel and follow us. We have a lot of great podcast programs, and a lot of them, and we've got some lined up. In fact, we have Aaron Murray coming on with us during the week before the SEC championship game. So he's going to give us the scoop on the SEC championship game. And Aaron Murray, of course, UGA great quarterback. Now working with ESPN, doing some commentary for ESPN. He'll be on with us during the SEC championship week. And so we got some good podcasts coming up. All right, guys, thank you for joining us here on a Thursday night. I hope you have a good evening. Rest well. Tomorrow is Friday. And then it's game day. On Saturday as Georgia takes on Kentucky. And then, next week, Thanksgiving week. Don't know if I'll have a program before the Georgia Tech game. We'll have to just kind of wait and see during the week. But we'll be with you on Saturday before the Kentucky game, during, at halftime, and then after. So be sure to join us for that. All right. Good to have you with us tonight. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we want to express our appreciation to Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs when it comes time for you to finance or refinance your home. You want professionals helping you when all of that's going on. I mean, you want people who know what they're doing and people who really care, that they have pride in doing what needs to be done. They have pride in delivering for their customers. And I know these folks. I've shared a meal with these folks, all of these folks, and they are top-notch, number one people. And they're caring people. They're professional people. They've been in the business for a long time. They know what's going on. They know what's happening. They know how to help people. And so seriously, wherever you live, wherever you live, even in Alabama. Sorry, I'm just picking out our Alabama friends. Wherever you live, when it comes time for you to finance or refinance your home, contact the folks at Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lenders of the Georgia Bulldogs, southeastmortgage.com/UGA. And you'll find the contact information there. And I promise you, they will help you to get all of that done and you'll have peace of mind as it's being done and afterwards as well. All right, Chris Hall here for Dogs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Glad that you joined us tonight. We'll talk to you again soon. And of course, we close with those wonderful words.